Side. Glad to have you today. Hey, welcome. Former House Majority Leader Dick Armey is in Watertown today. He was here for an event for conservative House of Representatives candidate or congressional candidate Doug Hoffman, so that's all kind of interesting. I was assured again by the Hoffman people that he will be appearing on the show. Haven't heard anything else from the other candidates. We could gladly have a couple of them on. I don't care. Let's see. Hoffman will appear tonight on Fox's Glenn Beck show. That would frighten Ted Ford. I don't think Ted could handle that. But that's 5 o'clock on the Fox News channel. A lot of conservatives and so on are coming out in favor of Doug Hoffman, and we're going to talk about all of these the yin and yang of the campaign, who's got what and who's behind who and all of that. But we're going to start with a little soundbite from our own Mark Levin last night on his show as he weighed in support of Mr. Hoffman.
Well, it's a pleasure to introduce Doug Hoffman, conservative candidate for Congress, 23rd District, New York. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Mark. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great. It's a pleasure. You're now on a show that actually has an audience. I wanted you to know that.
Well, I'm glad to be on your show, and I realize you have quite an audience. And while I'm here, I want to thank you for endorsing me in my candidacy. It's a pleasure to have you endorsing me.
Well, it's very, very important, and I'll tell you why. When a guy like you, comes out of the private sector, stands up and says, you know what, I've got to do what's right. I see what's going on in my country. We have a couple of Republican bosses in New York, very liberal, who put the crown on an extremely liberal, what do you call them, delegates, a state delegate from the New York Assembly. I mean, really radical liberal. And she's even threatened at times to become a Democrat. She's sort of an Arlen Specter in drag, or a Jim Jeffords in drag. And the Republican establishment tells us in Washington and New York to back her, back her, back her. I'm going to tell you something, Mr. Hoffman. I take offense with all that's going on in this nation, the way this nation is being driven into the gutter, the nationalization of industries, the unwillingness for certain politicians to stand up. Your election is crucial, not just to you, but to this nation.
All right, that was Mark Levin last night. I guess he's not saying just call me Dee Dee or something. Wow, that's kind of, a little harsh. Arlen Specter and drag there. Of course, a reference to the Pennsylvania United States Senator who just changed recently from the Republican Party to the Democratic Party. And the other reference was Jim Jeffords, the former senator from the state of Vermont, who swung the balance of power a few years ago from Republican leadership to, at that time, Tom Daschle. So Mark Levin, all hot and heavy. Fred Thompson's been speaking out. Glenn Beck, all of these talk shows. Suddenly the 23rd Congressional District up here in northern New York is the subject of a lot of chatter in a lot of places. Now, that's leading to a lot of, sorrow in some places. In an editorial this morning, the Watertown Daily Times laments what they call the hijacking of the race by national media interests and yackers and talkers and columnists. They say the discussion should be on the issues. Since when are these type of races ever decided on? And the issues being things that Ms. Skozafava, the paper says, would be familiar with from her 20 years in elected office. Well, I doubt that's where this is going. There are no real debates. There's the one debate at Channel 9 in Syracuse next week. They have agreed to at least put it on the air the same day it's done. No audience, no input on what the questions will be, if anything. So a very, very controlled setting. What else are the candidates up to? Let's see. Well, of course, Hoffman had Army in town today. Goes on the Glenn Beck show tonight. Has to go to Syracuse to find an uplink on the satellite. And then Didi Skozafava is, I think, doing some commercials today and other things. And Bill Owens, the Democratic candidate, is in Lewis County today, touring a biomass facility. And then he comes to Watertown tonight to speak at a dinner of Democrats at the Northside Improvement League right across from BJ's Tavern on Mill Street. So we'll see what he has to offer and what the press asks him tonight. Again, as much as this is getting coverage everywhere, a little bit light and locally, but I do think that the interest in this race will intensify even among the mainstream media up here over the next couple weeks. And that's going to result in decent voter turnout in our section of the district. You know, I wrote about this on my blog this morning, and I have trouble remembering what I said here and what I said there. But one of the interesting things about this race is this congressional district is so large and stretches and meanders across upstate New York in so many directions that it touches depending on where you are in the district, you may get your news in a part of the district from Albany media. Some get their news from Syracuse. Some get their news from Utica. Some get their news from the Burlington area. And, some probably are in between. But this section of the district we live in is the only part of the 23rd district where our media market, the Watertown market, is wholly contained within the congressional district. So we're thinking, and a campaign operative was telling me this morning, Watertown, although it hasn't been the battleground the first couple of weeks or the first couple of months of the campaign, it will be in the end the battleground, because this is where the turnout will be the highest, and this is where the interest will be the highest. Let's face it, you go to Fulton County. How many of you know where Fulton County, not Fulton like the city near Oswego, Fulton County. It's over in the Hudson or Mohawk Valley somewhere. It's where Gloversville and Johnstown is. Half of the county's in our district, half isn't. That, it's going to be tough to get people all ginned up over this there. Same's true of Madison County, Hamilton County, those areas. But here in the Watertown area, I think turnout will be high, and that probably is what's keeping hopes alive within the Scotia-Fava organization. This is her home turf. Run up the score here. For every 100 people you get out to voting governor, probably 85 of them go her way. So, that's certainly a strategy and so on. But we'll see what happens. There's going to be a lot more said over the next 2 weeks. Keep tuned to your blogs. Really, this campaign is being covered better by blog. Not me, but I'm talking about Newzjunky. I'm talking about Jude Seymour's blog. I'm talking about Liz Benjamin. That's where you want to follow this campaign online. The old days of press conference, read about it in the paper. See that's the old paradigm there. And for better or worse, it's being done pretty much on blogs and websites and all of that. And all of the media, there's some individual people doing some good work. I'm not poo-pooing them. I'm just saying that's where the best sources of information are many times. Like I was watching that Jude from the Times. He carries a little camera thing around with him and actually gets some video of an event and throws it on his blog. And of course Newzjunky does the same. And they all do a pretty good job. So if you're not checking out those arenas, you're missing a good chunk of the action. Nonetheless, that's where things are right now. There are no polls. There are no CBS News, New York Times polls being done here, or any of that stuff, a Fox News opinion dynamics poll or anything. There are private polls being done by the campaigns. Some of the people who are at least tangentially related to some of the campaigns have said that, the way it's showing now, probably Hoffman's upper 20s, probably Scotia-Fava's polling mid-20s, and Owens is about where he was, probably low 30s and so on. So it's all pretty competitive. And the conventional wisdom is that probably 34 to 36% of the vote wins this race. 34 to 37, depending on how it breaks at the end, if it goes in one direction or the other. So it's a competitive three-way race, only House seat in the nation. Aren't we lucky indeed to have all of this attention right here on our North Country? But it's going to be interesting. We're going to take time out for messages and be back with more in just a moment right here on AM 1240, your News and Talk Authority.
He's rested, fired up, and ready to go from 6 a.m. till